Greetings and salutations. The weekend is upon us. So tonight I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to do one Dogman encounter, one Windigo encounter, and 2 Sasquatch encounters. I know I said this whole video was going to be about Sasquatch yesterday in homage to my friend Jarvis B., talented author, being out in Washington doing a little Sasquatching. But I can't get away from the Dogman encounters. They're just in my blood. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Also, really quick, my merch link is in the description. I've got 2 different types of t-shirts and a coffee mug. I'm going to be putting some more shirts on there, maybe a different coffee mug, a couple other things. My PayPal link is in the description if you guys would like to help keep this channel commercial free. Also, my second channel, which is dedicated to creepypastas. Now, I've gotten a couple questions, or a couple of people have asked me, are these stories fake? No. They're not fake. Dogman encounters are not fake. If I was going to do a creepypasta, it would say creepypasta. I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. If creepypasta is involved in one of my titles, then it's fake. My encounters are true, and I try to bring you guys the best encounters that I can research, and some that you have not heard yet. So I really appreciate you guys and want to give you the best content I can give you. And with that, let's get on with the encounters, shall we? Our first encounter of tonight is going to be a Dogman encounter. It comes to us from eastern Wyoming. My roommate, a guy we'll call Jim, spent his high school years in a little town in eastern Wyoming. I can't recall the name of the town, but it was the kind of place that most people had forgotten about since the trains had stopped coming through. It was a very weird little town, and most of the people living there seemed to be very paranoid. A lot of parents wouldn't let their children play outside after dark, and all unfamiliar faces were regarded with suspicion. Since the town was miles away from the nearest McDonald's or movie theater or shopping mall, there was nothing for the young people to do but get shit-faced drunk. That's what Jim and his friends were planning to do the night the story takes place. A fellow classmate was having a kegger at his parents' house that night, which was 20 miles out of the town on a dirt road somewhere. Jim had reservations about driving out there in the dark because that general area was known to be sort of creepy at night, but his friends really wanted to go, and he was the only one with a car. So after some coaxing, Jim and about 5 of his friends pile into his Buick and head out of town. About a half an hour later, they realize that they're lost. They can't find the road that they're supposed to turn on, and it's too dark to read any of the signs. They haven't seen any houses or cars for a while, so they figure they must have taken a wrong turn somewhere and decide to head back to the main road. After turning the car around and driving in the opposite direction for a few miles, Jim spots something in the middle of the road up ahead. His friend in the passenger seat notices it at the same time and says, "What the fuck is that, dude?" At first, they can't tell what they're looking at, but as the car draws nearer and the big black shape in the middle of the road, it starts to look like a mass of fur. Jim thinks it must be an animal, but it looks big enough to do damage to his car, so he slows down and stops the car about 20 feet from this thing. At this point, it's completely illuminated by the headlights, but neither he nor his passengers can figure out what the hell kind of animal it might be. Since it hasn't moved, they assume it must be dead and start to argue over who will drag it over to the side of the road. That's when the thing starts to move. They all fall silent and watch as it stirs, then suddenly stands up. Jim would always preface the next part of the story with, "I know this sounds crazy, but..." He says he can't really describe what he saw because he had never seen anything like it before. The closest he can come to this is the thing, whatever it was about 7 feet tall when it rose to its full height. Its body was shaped like a human male, but was covered in thick, dark fur. The head, he said, and I watched the goosebumps break out on his arms as he said it, was not human. It looked almost like a jackal or a German shepherd with a long snout, pointed ears, and its eyes were glowing in the headlights the way a cat's eyes would glow. It was staring right at them. Jim doesn't know how long he stared back at the thing because he noticed that it was clutching a dead rabbit in one of its enormous paws. He had barely had time to register this bit of information when the creature suddenly flung the dead rabbit away and took a step toward the teenagers in the car. Everyone screamed and Jim slammed the car into reverse, made a U-turn, and got the hell out of there. Needless to say, they didn't make it to the party that night. Our second encounter of the evening is a possible Windigo encounter. I've seen something on 3 separate occasions in Belpre, Ohio. If none of this makes sense, I'm willing to draw on a map to show the locations of each finding. April 8th, 2018, around 1 a.m. I'm on Main Street and I'm heading south towards Parkersburg, West Virginia. On the left-hand side of the road, I see something skittering towards me, heading north. There's another car in front of me, so another possible witness. A forest green sedan, 90s model, a bunch of liberal stickers on the back. It was dark, so what I could make out was shapes. Its arms were far too long, and its legs appeared to be much too long as well. It was a medium tan color, it had no hair, and upon further examination, it didn't have a face. It also walked on its knuckles. April 25th, 2018. Again, I'm heading south towards Parkersburg, West Virginia. There's a free bridge into Parkersburg, and I was taking that bridge. The beginning speed on the bridge is 35 and slows down to 25 towards the end. Around the slowdown zone, there's a yield sign and a road that leads into downtown Parkersburg. As I was slowing down, I witnessed the same creature, moving away from me east into downtown. The features were all the same, consistent, and it was definitely not a human or any animal I've ever seen. It also runs on the front ball of its back feet, I learned this time. May 17th, 2018, 10:30 p.m. This time I was going towards the same non-toll bridge into Parkersburg. There is a turn lane to turn left onto the bridge. The light had turned green and I went to take the turn before the creature thing cut me off, and I had to slam on my brakes as it was a foot or less away from the front of my car. Instead of skittering this time, it was running like how apes do, maybe with a little more gusto. I had a clearer look at it this time. You can see its spine clearly defined against its skin. It was very thin and gray tan color. It also has very defined veins in its neck. Additionally, it looked right at me. I screamed, and it still had zero face. However, in my headlights, I was able to discern that it had a bone structure of where a face should be. It then proceeded to run off to the west. Our third encounter of the evening is a Sasquatch encounter. April 17, 2016, during the evening, a woman was driving on a rural road near West Newton when she noticed ahead of her a tall, dark figure emerge from the right side of the road and move up the road just as she was approaching the area. She slowed down and looked at the 7-foot-tall creature covered in long, brownish red hair. The witness noticed that the arms were very long and skinny, and the creature had large red eyes that were glowing in the dark. The witness, who had no interest or belief in Bigfoot, became very frightened and left the area very quickly. Our fourth and final encounter of the evening is another Sasquatch encounter, coming to us from Everett, Washington in the mid-90s. I was younger, about 14 years old, and we had all decided to go for a little ride on our dirt bikes. I think there was Chad and Jason. There was probably about 5 of us, me being the youngest. Well, Chad was the same age as me, and there's another guy, Jason. He was about 18 years old. My brother is 3 years older than me. He was there also, and Trevor and Eric. Yeah, that's quite a few of us. So we're out riding our dirt bikes, and of course we went to find a place where we could smoke a cigarette discreetly because we're young and we wanted to hide. Jason bought the cigarettes because, of his age, so I was on my mom's four-wheeler and my brother and them were all on their dirt bikes. We lived out in a long road, farm fields out in the middle of the woods, pretty far out of town. Our house was on the river. So we find this trail back behind this old abandoned barn and we go down it, and then we come to some big clearing. There's a big open area. It looks like a pit of some kind, a perfect spot. So, we'll all jump off our motorcycles and we're chilling, talking, bullshitting, and walking around smoking cigarettes, and we see a little trail. Well, it wasn't too little. I mean, it was probably, 3 people could stand side by side, next to each other and walk down this trail. It was pretty beaten down. We didn't think about it, that it was obviously way too big for a deer or anything like that. So we get walking down this trail and Chad's like, "Oh dude, what the hell, look at that shit." So we all walk over there. We're looking at something that looks like a dead cow, and it's off in the bushes, and it's got its head ripped off and some of its stomach. It wasn't all ripped open, but some of its stomach was. It had been there for a while. We walk down a bit further and we find a deer head, and we didn't find the body. It had antlers on it, and that was the weird thing. And then Jason was like, "Holy shit, I wonder if there are bears back here or something." But, all the years of living out here, I've seen one bear. It was across the river, and it was a black bear, and I've never seen a bear or heard of a bear ripping a deer's head off. I haven't, but we thought, oh yeah, it's a bear, right? And now that I'm older, I think that was stupid. So we're walking down this trail thinking, wow, this is crazy, and all of a sudden we hear these big thuds, like boom, boom. Now that's weird. We're like, whoa, what was that? I mean, the trees are probably about as big around as 15 inches, and they weren't huge trees, but they're about the big around, tall, skinny ones. I forget what kind of trees they are, maybe old cotton or rather little baby cottonwoods, I don't know. But they're pretty tall, and we're standing there. We heard these big thuds. We're looking, and of course, you'd be looking around if you're in the middle of the woods. All of a sudden, just boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's loud. It's big bangs coming through the woods, and then all of a sudden you could see the trees coming from a distance. They're moving over like, they're not falling down, but they're moving out of the way like something's running through the woods, and all you could see coming through the bushes is this big black thing. I'm gonna tell you, my friends, that was no bear. This son of a bitch was tall, huge, and running, and it was making, this goddamn thuds. Boom, boom, boom. And you could hear the trees crashing, pushing. We all hightailed it out. We ran so fast, we ran past our motorcycles and left them in the woods. Yeah, it was ridiculous. So we ran home. We tell my dad, and there's something out in the woods. It's huge. We didn't tell him that we thought it was a Bigfoot or whatever. But we were thinking that, oh my God, this thing is huge. And my dad's like, I can't believe you idiots left your dirt bikes out in the woods. I don't know what the hell you guys are dreaming or smoking. So anyway, we tell him that we're not going back out into those woods. We got Jason, and he's way older than us, and he's telling him, hey, man, he's on my dad. There's something in the woods. Something huge is back there. There's dead shit everywhere. It is ridiculous. And the way these trees were moving from side to side, what else could it have been? This thing was huge. It was big, black. We didn't see the face, obviously. We're not going back into those woods by ourselves, because we're really scared. So my dad gets his rifle, and we go down there, and we show my dad the trail, and he's like, wow, this is weird. Nothing came back out. We didn't see anything else. We walked my dad down the trail, and yeah, the trees were pushed aside. There was this log about the same size as the trees had fallen down between a stump and the riverbed, broken. It was broken in half like something ran right through it, and because there's a tree, it was like laying across the ground. It's probably about 3 or 4 feet in the air, and just landed on a stump. So it must have been the tree that fell. All of a sudden, my dad says, I wonder if it was Bigfoot. We thought, oh yeah, being kids, Bigfoot, but we did hear at my dad's house, even the neighbors, that they had shot something out there. And it wasn't a cougar. It was the weirdest noise also, and kind of like how a cougar or a bobcat scream, but we think it was a Bigfoot screaming. I haven't been back there in years, and it's right next door to my dad's house. I've often thought, hey, maybe it lives back there. Maybe it's still back out there. Maybe it's living in the abandoned barn deep in the middle of the woods. So, obviously, this Bigfoot is killing people's cows in their fields and eating them. I don't know the whole thing about the ripped off head, but that's something I think is just pretty bizarre. There you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed those 4 chilling true encounters. The last story, the writing was a bit off, so I had a little bit of problem reading it. I apologize. I truly appreciate everything. You guys are the best. I honestly cannot get over the amount of support you guys have sent me. So, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And this is what making videos and YouTube is about. It's not about the money. It's not about goofing off or anything. To me, it's about enlightening people about these creatures, these wild, uncaring demons. That's the best thing I can describe a Dogman and a Windigo. And the Sasquatch, I'm not sure. I look at them more as a friend of the woods, like the Native American culture. You don't piss them off and they won't rip your head off. With that, guys, have a good night. Have a great weekend.